Hello, my bis and allies. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Bisexual Behavior. I'm your host, Talia, and I'm here to remind you that you exist, regardless of the Trump administration removing bisexual from the Stonewall National Monument website. Today is National Orgasm Day, and I've got a special treat for you all. And if you're listening after July 31st, it doesn't really matter because you can really celebrate any day if you catch my drift. I'm going to briefly pause to say that if you are related to me in any way, this is not the episode for you. There are plenty of other episodes to check out that can help you be supportive and be an ally, but this is not the episode. And if you aren't related to me, this is actually a great episode to listen to. So I did just want to get that out of the way. I'm very excited to reintroduce a friend of mine, Sarah, who was a guest on the podcast very early on when I first started the show. Sarah is a founder, sex toy reviewer, and content creator for Delicto, an inclusive, shame-free website where you can purchase toys, get free resources, and read in-depth reviews on products before you buy. You might also know Sarah from TikTok and her videos on sex tips, reviews, and pleasure-positive education. In this interview, Sarah and I talk about sex, orgasms, of course, online discourse about bisexuals, her experience with going from dating a woman to a man, and so much more. I know I always say this, but this is truly such a fun and lighthearted episode that I know you all will love. So without further ado, here's Sarah. Sarah, welcome back to Bisexual Behavior. I am so happy to have you again.
Talia, thank you for having me back. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you. Last we spoke, we talked a lot about sex and orgasms and misconceptions about sex and being in queer relationships, and I'm just so excited to dive into just life and how things are again with you. So I'm just so happy to have you back. But
yes.
Before we get started, I would love for you to just introduce yourself to our listeners, for maybe those who have not listened to our last episode, which you should because it is incredible.
I need to go back and re-listen to that episode. How many years ago was that? I feel like so much has changed.
I know.
But first I'll do what you asked me to do. I'm Sarah, co-founder of Delicto.com, which is a pleasure-positive online shop where sex toy shopping, reviews, and sex education come together in delicious harmony. I'm also a content creator. I guess maybe that's... Last time we spoke, I didn't expect things to go this way, but I think I'm now maybe most known for the content I make over on TikTok. So I didn't see that coming, but that's what happens. So yeah.
Yeah, and what pronouns do you use for our listeners?
She, her, please.
She, her. And do you identify as bisexual, queer, pansexual? Like, where do you fall?
Queer?
Not to grill you.
No, grill the fuck out of me. Am I allowed to swear? Okay.
Yes, of course.
I identify as queer. I know that hasn't changed. It's just the way, it's the umbrella I feel most comfortable under. And did you ask me a follow-up question? I can't remember.
Oh, your pronouns.
Yes, she, her. Yep. Okay. So she, her, queer, still Sarah from Delicto.com.
Incredible. All right. So I'm always going to start with just my general question. What is your queerest behavior?
My queerest behavior, I mean, aside from eating pussy, are we talking about how I like, what flavor I like in my iced latte?
It could be anything. I always say that I sit really weird in chairs. I know that that's kind of a bisexual stereotype, and
I didn't know that, but now I'm hyper aware of how I'm sitting in this chair, which is so weird. So maybe I'll steal yours. I do sit really weird in chairs. I didn't know that was a bisexual thing. Okay.
I kind of think that people just hold on to random stereotypes of people who maybe aren't neurotypical and put it under the bisexual umbrella, because we don't really have stereotypical things other than just like random made up things in our community, like iced
Got it.
lattes or oat milk iced lattes and stuff like that, or like
Okay,
lemon
that one I
bars if you're on
knew.
Reddit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that one I knew. Okay, well now you've got me thinking about what my queerest behavior is. I don't know.
It
I'm
is
gonna.
like the hardest question I probably will ask you.
Okay, good, because I do not have a solid answer for that aside from just like doing lots of gay shit.
I
But
think that that is a great answer in itself.
okay.
And we can dive into that a little bit more. But so you talked about this in like the last episode that we recorded together about just like what Delicto is and how you got it started. But do you mind like giving just like a brief introduction on like what got you there and what got you into content creation and like the type of content that you share?
Yeah, so I started as a professional bedding reviewer and sleep writer at a place called Sleepopolis, and it was at the time absolutely my dream job. 2020 hit, the pandemic took us all under, we all lost our jobs. So the chief research officer of Sleepopolis and I started to cook up a new idea. We were quarantined in our homes, like, okay, what are we both very knowledgeable on? What are we both passionate about? How do we take what we've learned about reviews and content creation and health and wellness, all the things that we learned here at Sleepopolis, how do we kind of transition that into our own thing and create our own thing? And we very quickly landed on sex toys.
Hell yeah.
Sex toy review, but also with an emphasis on inclusive, pleasure positive sex education. So, bada bing, bada boom, Delicto was born. What we didn't see coming, because like I said, I had been a professional reviewer, so I thought that that's kind of the direction things were going to continue to go for me, that I was going to stay on the sort of like YouTube review path. We were promptly banned from YouTube, and
Oh,
I moved on over to TikTok and could not have anticipated the success that came from that platform.
wow. Who knew YouTube was that lame?
I to this day do not understand it, because I see people reviewing sex toys on YouTube. What they had against me, I don't know. I was fully clothed. There was nothing spicy about it. I must have done something wrong, but they don't tell you what it is. They just unceremoniously kick you off and you're never allowed back. So
It feels homophobic, actually.
I'm sure it was.
I will say TikTok is kind of a scary place.
Oh
For
yeah.
me as like a content creator, well, it's not like I post on TikTok really. I just post like clips from episodes, but I find it very scary because it's like you can just get attacked on there. And I do watch a ton of TikTok. And I mean,
Same.
who doesn't at this point? And
Yep.
I felt like Pride Month was a really hard month for me because this year specifically, it just seemed like the biphobia on TikTok was like rampant.
It is rampant, and
Yes.
I didn't know how bad it was. I was maybe a little ignorant. I knew that biphobia was bad. I know
Mhm.
that like for some reason people are consistently hating on the B in
Mhm.
that acronym. I have some theories about why that is. I don't fully get it, but I notice what you're saying. I noticed this
Yes.
year
Mhm.
in particular was just like, oh wow, biphobia is like full on trending. It's like scary.
And it
Like,
like was very focused on like cis feminine women
yes.
specifically, I noticed. And I think it had a lot to do with because a lot of celebrities who came out as queer then also started dating men. And I think that kind of
Yes.
like trickled into it. But I guess my question for you is what have you learned being on that space that you wouldn't expect that people would be so critical of? Like, what has your journey on TikTok been like? And just
Um,
that kind of scary world.
well, I would say, first of all, to give TikTok some credit, my experience has been pretty lucky over there so
Mhm.
far. The
Good.
internet in general can be a really brutal place. And somehow I've managed to escape a lot of that. I don't get a ton of hate comments. I don't get a lot of people attacking what I look like or what I do. I mean, there are parts of the internet that do that. I had a couple features in the New York Post. I don't even want to tell you what those comment sections looked like.
Oh,
Turns out
gross.
they're like, I didn't even know because I don't read the New York Post, but turns out they're like these really filthy Republican rags. So I didn't know what to expect when it was all just like this whore obviously has no father, whatever. But overall, TikTok has been pretty good. But it's really the biphobia specifically that I've noticed and even personally encountered after ending my long-term relationship with a woman and entering a new relationship with a cis man.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, all of a sudden it was just like people who are even my friends, who I consider friends, found out about it and they were like, ew, why?
Ew, that you were
Really?
dating a man or like...
Yes,
Oh, what?
yes.
I hope you're not friends with them anymore. That's
I
some
was
weird
just kind
shit.
of like, ooh, very disappointing reaction from you. And it kind of, not in any way to compare myself to a celebrity, because I'm not, but it reminded me of the celebrities you're talking about who came out
Yeah.
as queer and then entered into a relationship with a man. And then all of a sudden it's like anyone has, all these people feel entitled to pass judgment. Like, who the fuck are you? It's crazy. So yeah, I have experienced a lot of that actually.
Yeah. And I just find it so interesting that like men aren't even a part of that conversation at all. It's never like if a man just starts dating a woman after dating a man. That's like never a conversation on TikTok
Okay,
that I've seen.
I haven't really seen that either. But what's interesting is at the end of Pride Month, I made a video. I can't remember what it was, but it was like, as we bring Pride Month to a close, 3 reminders. And one of them was, if you're a bisexual woman in a relationship with a straight cisgender man, you are still a bisexual woman.
Yes.
You still deserve a seat at the table. You are still the B in that acronym. And I really wanted to focus on bisexual women. But don't you know, the men came in hot into the comment section and they were like, let's talk about bisexual men though. Let's talk about the hate that bisexual men, like, okay, yes, I'm not, but we were just at this moment in time, I was talking about bisexual women because what's trending on TikTok right now is a whole lot of biphobia specifically geared toward women.
Yeah.
So just take a fucking seat for a minute.
They like need to be in the conversation. I think for me, I find it interesting because I feel like it's so rooted in misogyny that is the reason why women are like at the center of that conversation. And it is funny because even like I'm a bisexual woman, so obviously I'm going to maybe find more women to interview, not intentionally. It's just more natural. It's just people in my community. And, that's like something I could relate to a little bit more. So I feel like I have listeners of all genders, of course. And sometimes they're like, we want more bisexual men. And of course, like I love bisexual men. Like I feel like they experience such a different experience and form of biphobia than women do. And I just find it fascinating because it's all anti-women at the end of the day. It all kind of circles back to that. But it makes sense that we want to focus on our own experience in a way, like what we relate to and the people that we relate to. So it's just funny when people are like, I want the conversation to be about me right now. I'm like, okay, like just hold on.
And what's interesting too is like, some people who in my boyfriend's life who, talk to him and find out he's dating a queer woman, they're like, oh, right on, very cool, way to be an ally, oh, progressive of you, very cool. And then you flip that coin around and it's people who talk to me, a queer woman who's in a relationship with a straight man, and they're just like, oh, lame, boo, tomato, like, wait.
It's like we can never win.
No, yeah, there's no winning. Like, how about be stoked that I'm in a healthy relationship with someone with a secure attachment style? How about be stoked about that for me? Why don't you
Yes.
love that for me? Like, or do you just want me to be with a woman regardless of how that relationship is going?
Exactly. And honestly, we have less options for women. And I mean, it's unfortunate. Like, I would have loved to end up marrying a woman, but there's less in the dating pool. I'm more naturally likely to meet a cis man because at work or whatever, it in a small city, that's what happens a little bit more naturally. And it's just like,
True.
I think people expect you to say, well, if you don't want to be with a man, then you don't have to. But it's like, it's more about the connection with the person and the secure relationship than it is the gender in general.
For sure. And like, I do get how some people kind of fuck it up for the rest of us. You
Yes.
know, the women who say things like, oh, yeah, I would totally have sex with a woman, but I would never marry one. Or I would totally make
Mm-hmm.
out with a woman, but I would never, like, seriously date one. Like, okay, they're fucking it up for the
Yeah,
rest
can
of
you
us.
like please shut up because you're making us look bad because
Right.
it just takes away from the conversation for sure.
Yeah, but like again, can we not like assume that those people are representative of all bi women, please? I beg you.
And honestly, a lot of those bi women might just not have had enough experience to really feel differently about it. They might be like newly out, and that's just kind of like the first reaction that you have, like, oh, I think a woman's really hot, but I could never like go down on her. I could never like be in a relationship with her because you aren't deconstructing queerness yet. Like you're just still in that like hetero mindset or that content
That's true.
mindset. So
That's
it
true
could
too.
be just a state of where they're at. And I understand not
Yeah.
wanting to date a person who's in that place.
I
But I
can see
think,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Like, you know, especially if you were like fully indoctrinated in like heteronormative or even like Christian culture,
Mhm.
there's a lot of unlearning that you have to do. And I wish that people were kind of given time, space, and grace, you know,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
to do that.
Have you heard a lot of like the discourse around decentering men on TikTok as well?
Decentering, absolutely. I've led some of the discourse on that. Yeah.
Curious, like what you think about that. Well, in a relationship with a cis man, like what that looks like for you and how. Because my stance on it is that everyone centers men because that is we live in a patriarchy, and it's like kind of like you have to unlearn it throughout your whole life, even if you are a lesbian or only have dated women and you're sapphic or whatever. I feel like that's still something that you have to deconstruct. So just curious about like what your take is on that as well.
Well, the content that I've done personally on TikTok around decentering men, typically because most of the content I make always relates back to toys and sex and pleasure. A lot of it revolves around this idea that men need to know and women need to understand that men are not competing with other men when it comes to being in a relationship with a woman. They're competing with the peace and pleasure that women can just give their fucking selves. I'm talking
Oh.
about straight women who would like to be in a healthy relationship with a man, but if not, that's fine. I can make
Mhm.
myself come. I know exactly where my clitoris is. I've got a whole arsenal full of toys. And I don't need an angry man in my home yelling or bleeding me dry or whatever. So one thing that I do make a lot of content about is just making sure that women understand they don't need to have a man at the center of their existence to live a fulfilled life. You are at the center. The love and peace and pleasure you can give yourself, that's paramount.
I love that. I love that
Yeah.
so much. And there's nothing that gives a bigger ick than a guy who feels insecure about his partner using toys.
Oh, yeah, I have a zero tolerance policy on that. I'm a hypocrite over here because I was just like, come on, give people some, time, space, and grace. Okay, yes, but that conversation, the how do I convince my boyfriend to let me use toys
Mhm.
conversation, that one I've got less tolerance for. Like,
Mhm.
here, I'm going to tell you right now, and then we're not going back and forth about this. The reason that I should be allowed to use toys is because I want to.
Yep.
The end. That's the end. You know, if you really want to elaborate a little bit more, you can explain, you know, stats about the orgasm gap. You can explain why it's very important for your partner to prioritize your pleasure and that sex does not end with the man's orgasm and so on and so forth. But from where I'm standing, if your partner doesn't straight up accept, oh, you want to use toys because you want to, great, let's shop for them together, then I'm already like, red flag.
Red flag. And honestly, like most, maybe not most, but like a very high percentage of women can't orgasm without a toy. And that's not like a defect. That's just literally like our anatomy. And it's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And the vast majority of cis women cannot orgasm without clitoral stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's something in the ballpark of like 20% of women can orgasm from internal stimulation alone. That is such a tiny minority.
Yep.
So for men to think that just penetrating their partner, just PIV, is going to be enough to fully satisfy them or bring them to orgasm, wrong. No.
Mm-hmm.
No, you want to put a bullet on the clitoris while you're having sex. You want to, you know, wear a wearable couples toy, something. Like, make sure that she is fully satisfied just like you are.
Exactly. And one thing that I've learned going from dating women back to being with a man is that I like had never considered using toys during sex. I thought it was something, you know, that I would use like on myself just for solo time. And then when I started dating women, I was opened up to a world of it's normal to use toys during sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in the past dating men who were like weird about me using toys, whatever. And obviously I'm not with them anymore because that's like some weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
But now again, being with men, it's like I brought that into my sex life now, and it's like so much better because I feel like I'm just more open, and I feel like bringing a part of your queerness into the relationship in a way, which leads me to wonder, like, now that you've had a similar experience where you were with a woman before and now you're with a man, like, how do you feel like you can bring your queerness into a relationship and still feel like very strongly queer and visible while with a man?
It's tough to put into words because it's like, I just am. The other thing to note is that we're not traditionally monogamous either. So my dating women and having sex with women has not ended because I'm in a relationship with a man. Not that that's kind of a different conversation. You know, polyamory versus monogamy. But I will say, though, that after being in a long-term, having just come from a long-term relationship with a woman, there are certain things that I would say I took with me, like extended foreplay, which in my experience has been more prevalent among queer and lesbian women as compared to hetero relationships I've had. A lot of the sex I've had with straight men really regarded foreplay as like an optional bonus act. And even then they don't know what foreplay even is. They think it's oral sex. No. Oral sex is play. That is core play. It's not foreplay. Foreplay is, how are you going to get me in the mood to even want to have sex? Like, let's start there. So in the relationship that I'm currently in, you know, but that's the thing too, is like, I would never have entered into this relationship with this man if he were not already aware of all of these things. Because I'm 35. I'm not teaching anyone shit anymore.
Hell yeah.
Not in my personal relationship. Online, sure. Of course, I'm happy to. But in my personal relationship, no. I'm not going to explain to anybody why foreplay is important or why I want to use toys or, you know. And that's not to say that, you know, maybe I sound intolerant or whatever, but like, that's not to say that some people shouldn't. That's not where I'm at in life. I need someone who's already on my level, who's already going to meet me where I'm at, who's already coming to the relationship with toys of their own that they can't wait to use on me, and has decentered PIV as the main course of sex, because it's just not. For not for me. For some people, sure, but if we're going to act like the man's orgasm or PIV sex is the main attraction, it's the reason for the season, it's why we're here, no, that's some heteronormative shit that is not going to fly with me.
I love everything that you're saying about this. I think that, it's so great to have that confidence. I think we are in a little bit of a privileged situation where we're in our 30s. We know what we want. We've already come out. We've already dated and explored all of that kind of stuff. I'm thinking of like the people who listen to this show who came out while they were in a heteromonogamous relationship, or, they might just feel like they can't reintroduce these things because they didn't exist in their relationship before. Like, have you ever, I don't know if you like work directly with clients or like just talk to your followers about it, but have you ever gotten questions about like, what do I do if, I've never introduced these types of things to my partner and now suddenly I am queer and I want to use sex toys, or I want to have more foreplay, like, or more intimacy before we get into like the P and V action?
I get so many questions about how to introduce toys, more foreplay. I get so many questions about that. They're not typically in the context of, I was in a queer relationship, now I'm not. Typically, these things are coming from women who have firmly and consistently been in hetero relationships, who stumble upon my content and are like, oh, fuck, I've been missing out on a thing or two. Like, how do I now navigate that conversation? And because that is such... Was that your cat?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I was wondering if you heard him. He's asking for cuddles right now.
Mine does the same thing all day.
Aww.
But because that is such a frequently asked question,
Fibber, don't. He's like stepping on my computer for listeners right
Mine
now.
does that all day. It's brutal. He's actually pawing at me right now. But because that is such a frequently asked question, we have a whole article about it.
Good.
So, of course, I'll give people individualized one-on-one, advice about that. But I'm also like, here's the link. This is how you navigate this conversation. As far as how to use sex toys. Foreplay is a different conversation because there are still so many people who simply don't know what it is. Not through any fault of their own, but really just a failing on the part of sex education in America in general. You can still find some like outdated Wikipedia articles that are like, foreplay is, third base, oral sex or fingering. Like, no, if it can make you come, it's not foreplay. It's core play.
That's right.
Once again, this is just perpetuating the idea that PIV is the sex. It is what we're all hurtling toward. It's the main event, and that's just not it. To go back to your earlier question, that's one of the things that I'm really glad my current boyfriend and I are very aligned on. Like, sometimes I just want to exchange oral sex. I don't want to have PIV. Sometimes the sex is, we're just kissing and you finger me until I come, and that's the sex. Or like, I just want to give you head. I don't want anything else, I want to give you head and get back to work. Like, sometimes sex looks different. That's one conversation that happens a lot here at Delicto, is sex does not only look like penis and vagina. I say it again and again and again.
Absolutely. And you're talking a little bit about also, being non-monogamous. And at this podcast, we love whatever your relationship style is, whether you're polyamorous or monogamous. And I love to ask people, like, how do you bridge that conversation if that's something that you're interested in? Maybe you've been together for a little bit and you want to explore polyamory, but you don't know how to bring it up to your partner.
So I would like to preface this by saying I am by no means like the authority on polyamorous relationships. All I know is every relationship can and should be designed entirely by you and your partner/partners. My cats are full on anarchy right now.
Our cats are like communicating and having a different conversation right now.
Yeah, they're over it. So that's all I know. I can't give specific tips on how to navigate like certain, hierarchical poly relationships and like, what are my best tips for a triad? I I can give tips, but my number one tip is you design it yourselves. What feels right for you and your partners? I feel like a lot of people think that they have to follow some specific script that sort of puts them into this box of ethical non-monogamy. And it can be really limiting and ultimately damaging because instead of like really communicating consistently, which is the number one most essential thing in non-monogamous relationships, they're more just sort of like assuming, well, this is what I should do, so this is what we're doing. No. So I, before I enter into any kind of relationship, let my prospective partner know right out of the gate that I am not a traditionally monogamous person, not interested. It's not ever going to be for me. Are you interested with that in mind in moving forward? Like, let's just get that right out in the open. As far as what that looks like, once again, that's something that we negotiate and chat about. And it's an ongoing conversation. It's not a one-time conversation. It moves and shifts just like we do, but I do put that front and center because if you are 100% a traditionally monogamous person, then it's a non-starter.
Yeah. It's interesting because every person that I've interviewed where I ask that similar question to, it seems like the basis is one, that every dynamic is different. Every person I've talked to has a different dynamic when it comes to polyamory. There's so many different styles and ways to go about it. But the big base of that is strong communication.
Yeah.
And having like boundaries around it. So it's it's interesting to hear, like, again, like how vast relationship styles can be. So I appreciate you sharing that and giving that advice.
Sure.
And one thing, so the goal is to launch this episode for, I think it was National Orgasm Day. So I do want to talk about orgasms. As we talked about earlier, it's very difficult for a lot of women to orgasm in general, or vagina havers to orgasm in general, from just, penetration alone. So say, have you ever gotten somebody who asks you, like, I have never had an orgasm before by myself or with a partner. Like, how do I go about exploring that and achieving an orgasm?
Oh, yeah. I get that question every day. That's one of the most frequently asked questions for sure.
I'm sure.
And that's why one of the first things I always tell them, because everyone thinks they're alone. It's very easy on the internet, and just all the media we consume in general, like watching couples have great sex and hearing about people who are having great sex. It can be really easy to assume that you're the only person out there who's not having explosive orgasms around the clock. No, there are so many women who have never, well into their 40s and 50s, who have never had an orgasm. So the first thing I like to remind them is that you are not alone. But secondly, it's important to explore the different types of orgasm, the different types of stimulation. you have to explore what your body likes, but also what your mind likes. Because a lot of the time, people are not orgasming because they have not built a sufficient state of arousal mentally and physically. So finding whatever visual or audio stimulation really works for you. Set the scene for yourself. And if you try internal stimulation and it doesn't feel great, try clitoral stimulation. Try blended stimulation. Try adding nipple play to the game. Vibration didn't feel good, try air pressure. It's kind of a trial and error situation until you get there. But you have to be patient with yourself, be patient with your body. The mind and body are so inextricably linked, especially when it comes to being able to reach orgasm. If you go into it already feeling like, well, it didn't happen before, so I'm sure it's not going to happen this time, it's like, okay, well, you're probably right.
Yeah.
It can be tough to abandon that sort of like defeatist negative mentality, because when you try and fail, it does get discouraging, but that's part of the hurdle,
Yeah. And I mean,
to
even if you
overcome.
have had an orgasm before, I know, like, for me, sometimes I'll be so fixated and focused on it that it takes away from the experiences. I'm like, oh, am I going to come? I'm going to come. Oh, no, not right now. And so I think it ruins the experience a little bit.
So that's the other thing that I always say is it might sound like counterintuitive, but when you go into things, decenter the orgasm. Don't think about the orgasm. The orgasm is not important. Forget that it exists. Focus only on pleasure. Focus only on what feels good. Does this feel good? How long can I make this feel good? That's all you have to do. Just, does this feel good? Yes. Keep doing it. See how long it can feel good. That's all. And if you
Wow.
can do that, you've won. That's it. Just, you gotta release some of that pressure around the orgasm.
I have not thought about it that way. It's like decenter the man and decenter the orgasm, and you will
Yes.
focus on yourself and achieve.
Yes. Pleasure is the purpose. And I know it's like, you know, people don't always love when I say that, because they're like, yeah, Sarah, pleasure is the purpose, but I also want to fucking come. Okay, I hear you, but just keep in mind that these things go hand in hand. When you center the orgasm too much, you can scare it off. You got to release some of that pressure.
And honestly, you can still have great sex without an orgasm.
Of course.
Yeah. It doesn't always have
Absolutely.
to be the center of the universe. It could be just
Absolutely.
everything else around it.
100%. Yeah. Connection, intimacy, bonding with yourself or with a partner. That's the reason.
Absolutely. So I want to play a little bit of a game, and it's related to sex toys. So are you down?
I am down. I'm literally surrounded by sex toys as we speak. So.
Perfect. Okay. We're going to play Fuck, Marry, Kill Sex Toy Edition.
Oh, I'm so excited.
2 rounds. All right. So we're going to start. So basically, I'm basing this off of vagina havers because we probably have the most experience with it, but we can also talk about, different toys for people who have a penis as well.
Sure.
But so let's start with solo toys. So toys
Okay.
that they can be used obviously with a partner, but we're thinking of it in terms of just masturbation and solo play. Okay. So suction toys, rabbit toys, or grinding pads. And I do want to give a little bit of a brief for people who don't know what those toys are.
Okay.
So suction toys, I would describe it as that has that like little circle at the top, and instead of like a vibrating motion, it's like more of like a suction that you put on your clit.
Yes, it's so.
Unless you can probably describe that better than me.
No, you're pretty much right, but it's a lot of the time when people hear suction, they think sucking. And that's not exactly it. There's a little silicone pad that sits sort of deep within that nozzle, the mouth of the toy, and it shoots rapid fire bursts of air in a way that when you press that nozzle, into your vulva or sort of seal it around the clitoris, that quick burst of air feels like pulsing stimulation in a way that kind of feels like a combination of sucking and blowing and nibbling. It's very tough to describe. It's a tough sensation to describe. That's why you really got to just try it. But I love air pressure so much. It's going to have to either be fuck or marry. I cannot live without air pressure.
Okay, well, first let's describe rabbit toys. So when I think of rabbit toys, I feel like the first time it was introduced was in Sex and the City, where I think it was Charlotte got like a rabbit toy and she like wasn't going out.
Habit.
Yes.
Forget what you saw there, though, because it's so funny. I did a write-up about this. So that was the original Rabbit Habit, also featured on Oprah, who described it as the Rolls Royce of sex toys. Yeah, okay, maybe way back in the day. But that thing was, first of all, not even body safe. It was made from, like, PVC, jelly rubber.
Yikes.
Number two, the way rabbit-style toys have come so far. So to clarify for listeners, a rabbit-style toy is a category of toy that basically combines an internal component and an external component. So you're getting blended stimulation of both the internal G area and the external clitoris. So like you said, most people think of rabbit toys and they think of, the sort of like swirling dildo that's got, the part with the little bunny ears that flutter on the clitoris. That is one style, but rabbit toys are another style that have come so far. The snail is an example of a rabbit toy.
I've seen your TikToks about the snail, and I feel like I should probably get it at this point.
I cannot believe the original snail was discontinued. That was the shock of my life. It's really just because the snail curve is so much more popular. But anyway, 10 out of 10 recommend the snail. You can find all snails on Delicto.com. But that's an example of a rabbit. Really, a rabbit is anything that is combining internal and external stimulation.
Yeah, and the rabbits that I've had where it's like the clitoral stimulation is like a vibrator. And sometimes like I feel like it might not be super strong. I've maybe not had the best rabbit toys. I should probably get better ones. Or like they both vibrate, which maybe isn't like the best for everyone. So I think I need to upgrade on the rabbit toys in general.
Yeah, they're sex toys across all categories. They are not all created equal. There are some rabbits that are just like, get away from me. And then there are some rabbit-style toys like the snail where I'm just like, I would legally marry you if I could.
Elevated.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's important to be able to independently control the vibration of the internal part and the external part. That's like a must-have for rabbit vibes.
Exactly. I think I've just graduated from whatever toy I would get from like, probably not Spencer's, but some like cheap store, which I will never walk into a Spencer's again. I'm in my 30s now. I've graduated from that. But all right, let's talk about grinding toys because I had never heard of them until you talked about it on TikTok. And I feel like that could probably be used solo or with a partner, but I think of it more as like solo because there's different options of grinding toys.
Yes. So I actually just before I jumped on here was just making a video about toys that people are often too afraid to try but totally should, and one of them is a grinding pad called the Vibe Pad. People look at it and they're like, I don't know what that does or how to use it, so I'm going to give it a miss, and that is a huge mistake. The Vibe Pad series and grinding pads in general are the easiest to use because you quite literally put them on any flat surface, sit down, and grind. So they're also really accessible toys for people who maybe have mobility issues or just want something that is easy. But they're also super versatile, use them solo or use them with a partner. You want to enjoy clitoral grinding stimulation while you're performing oral sex on your partner? Boom. This is a great way to do that. So 10 out of 10 for grinding pads also. There are, not to shamelessly plug Delicto again, but there are so many video tutorials on how to pick the right rabbit, how to pick the right suction toy, what air pressure does, how it works. But also I've made so many videos on all the various ways you can use a grinding pad. So if you're not following Real Delicto, you should.
I will have to, first of all, I'm going to share everything in the show notes, and I might have to link to a couple of videos just so people can experience the joy of it. All right, so fuck, marry, kill. Let's go.
Not easy, but here we go. I'm going to marry air pressure because, like I said, truly the strongest orgasms of my life have come from air pressure. Orgasm's so strong, I'm like reduced to tears, followed by like maniacal laughter. Air pressure is 10 out of 10. And then I think I'm gonna fuck the grinding pad, specifically one of the Vibe pads. They're just so much fun and so versatile. Like, I love a toy that you can take on a car ride and, you know, grind on while I'm like sitting at my laptop. It's just, you know, so that's like I'm gonna fuck a Vibe pad all day. The only reason rabbits are gonna get the axe is because they are so varied.
Yes.
You know, yes, there are so many great rabbits, and then there are a lot of rabbits that just do not line up appropriately. I would say that's the biggest, most common complaint with rabbit style vibes is getting the internal and the external components to line up properly.
And as I said before, I've had some pretty bad experience. Well, not bad, but like not the best experiences with certain rabbit toys. So it's really, you have to find a good one. All right. Are you ready for round 2? And this is going to be focused on more of the context of partnered toys. So toys that you can use with a partner. And again, you can use these solo. You can use the other toys that I mentioned solo as well, or partnered. So we have strap-ons, strap-on-me toys, and vibes, like so vibrators, bullets, that kind of stuff. So let's talk about, again, what they are for people who might not be familiar. But strap-ons, you know, I always think of like the harness that you wear with like a dildo attached to it. And usually that's typically used in like sapphic relationships, or, you know, people who, you know, would rather use a dildo, or even if you have a male partner who wants to be pegged, that could be another thing as well. And then the strap-on-me toys, which I have never used, and I am fascinated by them. Those are the ones with like the bulb that you insert.
Okay, so
or maybe it's called something different.
Yes, so Strap-on-Me is a specific brand. I know what you're talking about, though. You're talking about the strapless strap-on, right?
Like it's like kind of like a double-sided type of situation.
Yes, yeah. So the strapless strap-on has a bulb is a good way to describe it because it sort of looks like an egg. It's like sort of an adjustable vibrating egg that is inserted typically into the vagina of the wearer. So that they can enjoy internal G area stimulation while they penetrate their partner with the external dildo of the strapless strap-on. Super fun, but this is one hot take that I'm always shouting from the rooftops. You're still gonna want to wear a harness. You still want to secure your strapless strap-on with a harness. A lot of people think that the purpose of the strapless strap-on is to forego the harness. Oh, great. Something I don't have to buy. So I don't have to worry about it. You know, I'm just going to pop it in and I don't need to secure it with a harness. Wrong. It will fall out. It doesn't matter which strapless strap-on it is. It will either slip out at the worst moment when you're at your most excited, or it'll just disrupt your performance because you're worried about it slipping out. Do yourself a favor and still secure your strapless strap-on with a harness. And then the first one you said is the strap-on, the standard strap-on dildo in a harness, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And number 3 is what now?
Like a vibe, like a vibrator. It could be a bullet vibe. I've seen the ones where you can like, if you are a vagina haver, you can like kind of like attach it in your like clit area and have it like rest on your labia, and that can be used during penetration as well. So anything that's just like a standard like small vibrator that's meant to be used on the clitoris.
Okay, so any clitoral vibrator.
Yeah.
Okay. Oof. Damn, that's even harder than the first one. I love the strap. I can't ever let it go.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna have to marry the strap, the traditional strap-on dildo and harness. I'm gonna have to marry that. Big fan. Let's also just very quickly talk about, this goes way back to your earlier, but a lot of hate I see over on lesbian TikTok is about lesbians and queer women who enjoy strap-on play. They try to shame people like, oh, it's so hetero of you. Like, I'm sorry, what? I'm being fucked by a woman.
Yeah,
Like, a
it's
woman is
empowering.
strapping on a huge dick and fucking me with it. In what way is that hetero? Anyway, that's
And you
just
can
an
like fuck
aside.
your boyfriend with it if you want. Like, come on.
Yeah,
It's
like, okay,
empowering.
just stop coming up with things to shame people about, for fuck's sake. Like, I saw something going on around TikTok. People were shaming lesbians who like to suck their partner's strap, which again, 10 out of 10 recommend.
Mhm.
But just like, oh, so hetero of you. Like, what? This strap-on dildo is attached to a whole woman. These are two women. Like, leave them alone. Anyway,
Seriously. I'm glad you brought that
um,
up because, again, that's another thing that feels like so centered in men when they're trying to be like anti men. It just like, I don't
yeah,
know.
just yeah, please, just
It's an
please.
ick, an ick.
Yeah. I've had some people comment to me too, actually, about, in my last relationship, I think my cat just jumped on the table. I mentioned the joys of sucking your partner's strap, and I got some shit from some, self-proclaimed gold star lesbians, which, like, that's a whole other thing. Like, oh,
Mm,
gross, how could you do that? Disgusting. Like, how could I do that? Passionately. That's how.
yeah.
I swallow that shit. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, be mad.
Stop judging and let people live their lives. Like, honestly, it's just.
Please.
And if you like
Anyway.
sucking a strap, you're still queer and valid.
God,
Like,
you're queer.
fuck.
Fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus. Sorry if I'm too crass for this.
No,
No. Okay.
this is not for kids, this show.
Okay.
So.
Um, so I'm gonna have to marry the strap. I love it so much. Um, I'm gonna fuck a clitoral vibe, because they're such a huge part of my life. I almost never have penetrative sex without a bullet vibe on my clitoris.
100%.
Like, almost never. And I'm gonna kill the strapless strap because, they're fun. They really are. But sometimes there's too many moving parts, and you know, I'd rather just go traditional, I think. So
I hear
there
you.
you go.
Amazing. And of course, one thing we didn't talk about were, toys for people with penises. So
Hmm.
I feel like that's a whole nother bracket of things where a lot of men didn't even know they're allowed to use toys, or people with penises didn't know they were allowed to use toys. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
with my partner, we were looking at strokers, and there's
Hmm.
a very big library of them, and I didn't
Yeah.
know where even to go. So curious, like, what are your opinions on strokers or different toys for people with penises?
Well, first of all, as far as where to go, come to me. Just come to me and I will help you.
Solid point.
So many different types of strokers, so I totally get feeling overwhelmed by the options. Some are better for beginners, for sure. I like to just start with something really easy that's non-vibrating, just like something like the Tanga Flip Zero is one of our best sellers. You're literally just putting your penis in the hole and stroking it. Really just something straightforward, just to get someone used to the sensation, how it feels. Do you like it? What do you like about it? Like, when I first started dating my boyfriend, he had never used a penis toy of any kind. So when I test penis toys on him, we're very professional, like at least to start, like, tell me what you're liking, what don't you like? Is this a grippy sensation that you like? Are you feeling a pop of suction at the end? Do you wish it were tighter? Do you wish it were looser? Do you wish it were deeper? Like really pay attention to sort of what you're feeling. And then from there, you can fine tune, okay, now I know the next stroker I want to get is going to, have a vibrating feature or, be open-ended so I can, not have to clean out the inside of it when I finish, So yeah, but the world of penis toys is vast. And I do get a lot of comments from men who are like, women get all the fun. They have all the toys and we don't get anything. Ooh, let me just send you a link real quick to the dozens upon dozens upon dozens of penis toys that we have just for you.
Sex toys for all. That's where I stand.
Absolutely.
Well, Sarah, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad that we got to reconnect and have you back on the show. But
absolutely.
Before we wrap things up, is there anything that you would like to plug?
Aside from Delicto.com and Real Delicto on Instagram and on TikTok, I would just like to remind everyone that Delicto and S-Vibe, the creators of the Snail Vibe, have collaborated on the manufacturing of a brand new toy. And it is coming out next month. And everyone should be on the lookout for that. I don't want to give anything away, but it, I think, is going to be particularly beloved by the queer community.
Oh my God. Okay. That's some big news. Okay. I will keep an eye out for that and promote it on our channels, but that's amazing. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. It was great chatting with you. I love catching up with you.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Of course.
Thank you to Sarah for joining us on the podcast and for indulging me in a few rounds of Fuck, Marry, Kill. I hope you all learned something from this episode and maybe feel like trying some new toys for yourselves. You can find Sarah on TikTok and Instagram at Real Delicto, and you can shop now at Delicto.com. Bisexual Behavior is an independent podcast run entirely by me, the host. I make no money from this show, but continue on with the support of my lovely listeners like you. With that said, it would make my day if you left a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Other ways to support the show would be to subscribe, follow me on Instagram at Bisexual Behavior, and share the show with your friends. I will be back next month with another episode, but until then I'll be doing my part to spread the bi agenda. But yeah, we'll see you next time. Okay, bye!